Hi folks, it's Mr. Henricus, and in this video I'm going to give you my 5 essential tips on how to improve your writing. Now these are tips I give my own students when they're struggling with writing essays, papers, assignments, stories, whatever they're writing. I give them these 5 tips. And I also give these tips to students who are not that good in English and who need a good grade. Well, these tips will definitely help you get along. Let's get to it. Tip 1. Plan your writing. Now the first tip is to plan your writing, and you can easily do this using an outline. When you use an outline, you structure your work and you already think about what you're going to put where. If you have a good outline and your outline is already filled with everything you want to write about, the writing process itself becomes very easy because you don't need to think about what you're going to put where in your essay or in your work, in your story or whatever you're writing. So I always tell my students, and I try to force my students as well, to use an outline because that makes writing itself a lot easier. Tip 2. Structure your work. Now after you've done the planning stages of your writing process, the next step is to structure your work. And you can do this using an outline as well. And when you structure your work, you kind of make the division between what your introduction is, what your body is, and what your conclusion will be. And this is of course only applicable to something that has a structure of introduction, body and conclusion. But whatever you're writing, if you structure your work, you have all your ideas together in one place, and doing this using an outline is always a good way to get started. Again, if your outline is good, your work will always be good because well-structured works are always better than works without any structure at all. Structuring your work using an outline, for example, is an excellent way to make sure that you follow a particular structure and that your ideas are conveyed clearly. And this also helps avoiding loose ideas, because then you don't talk about things that are not relevant for your story. Tip number 3. Structure your paragraph. So again, we talk about structure, and in this case my third tip is to structure your paragraphs. So when you've planned your writing and you've structured your work as a complete work at all, now you need to look at your paragraphs. What are you going to do at paragraph level? Now although you might think that structuring your work as a complete work is already structuring your paragraph, this is not always the case. When you have structured paragraphs, your paragraphs will also be focused and your ideas will become clear to the reader. Let's say that you're writing an essay on the influence of mobile phones on academic performance of students, and you've done your entire planning and your idea is clear, but then you're writing your paragraphs which you didn't structure and you just talk about the effect using mobile phones have before you go to sleep on your learning the next day. Now if you add 3 extra sentences about, let's say, sports performance, then you don't really have a structured paragraph, because the paragraph talks about the academic performance after using your phone before you go to bed, and then you talk about something like sports performance, and that's not relevant to your paragraph. Now this is what I call a loose idea, and you should always try to avoid these in your paragraphs. Good, well-structured paragraphs always have a topic sentence and level 2 and 3 sentences, which are sentences that either explain your topic sentence, which is the case for level 2, or give evidence and examples in the case of level 3. Now some paragraphs might have even level 4 sentences, which even explain and go into detail on these examples you've given. But for the basic structure, level 1, 2, 3 is the best. Now, I will have a video on how to write structured paragraphs in my writing essays series, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe now, because then you know when this video will be out. Tip number 4. Ask feedback. Now, writing is a thorough job on its own, and it is a lot of work. And don't forget, writing is an art as well. So if you don't get feedback, you'll never improve, because then you think you're always good enough. This also means that your message might not be clear in your stories, or your stories might be boring, your essays might not be structured, and maybe your idea, even though it might be in your essay, will not be conveyed as clearly as you want it to be. Now asking your friends and family to read what you write, or maybe asking your English teacher to give you feedback on specific elements of your writing will definitely improve your writing a lot, because then you can focus on improving these elements while you write your next version, or maybe when you write something else. You could also consider using technology or certain apps to get feedback. Think for example about the editor feature in Microsoft Word or certain apps like Grammarly. These are very good tools to get direct feedback about what you're writing and whether your message is clear, yes or no. Some of these are more advanced than others, and some teachers don't really like them, but I always recommend my students to use these apps when you want instant feedback. Now, the good thing about these apps is that they also make my life as a teacher a bit easier. They take out the basic mistakes that the students make or make certain typos, and I don't have to filter those out. I can give my students good feedback about the things they're writing about instead of talking and looking at particular small grammatical errors. Tip number 5, write, write, write. Like I said in tip number 4, writing is an art. And just like many other things like sports and studying, practice makes perfect. The more you write, the more feedback you get, the better your writing will be. And some people even say that the more you read, the better your writing will be, because then you can compare your work to that of others. Now, it doesn't mean that you always have to write 200,000 words, books and stories and essays of more than 2,000 pages or whatever. Simple things like blog posts, Instagram captions and even tweets are a good way to improve your writing, as long as you plan and think about the message you're trying to convey. But the most important thing when you are writing is that you look at certain goals. What are you trying to improve in this particular type of writing you're doing now? What are you going to look at? What is your aim for your writing? And what are you going to improve in this particular piece? If you set certain goals, you can see whether you're able to achieve those goals, and then your writing will become better as well. Maybe your goal is trying to be as clear as possible in the least number of words, or maybe you want to use a different type of vocabulary in this work you're working on. Setting those particular goals are very good ways to improve your writing, but the most important thing is write, write, write. Now, if you're a learner of English or any other language you're trying to acquire, I can understand that writing in that language can be considered difficult, and that sometimes you feel like you're doing something that you'll never be better at. But I promise you, writing a lot will definitely improve your writing. You could consider to read more to help you improve your writing as well, or you could do something like starting a blog or an Instagram page just to make sure that others see your writing as well. But even though it might be scary, writing is a very good way to improve your writing, and the more you do it, the better you'll be. There are also entire writing communities. Think about the website Wattpad, where you can publish your own stories or work and others will give you feedback on them. Those are good ways to improve your writing, and the more you write, again, the better your writing will be. And that's basically it. These were my 5 essential tips to improve your writing. Now, if you find this useful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my other videos on writing, and stay tuned for when I publish my entire essay writing series.